You know that little supercomputer you carry around in your pocket? The one you use to capture, well, pretty much every moment of your life? It turns out that whole reality is built on a single, seemingly impossible idea from way back in the late 90s. An idea that, at the time, was laughed at, dismissed, and almost totally abandoned. So, let's dive into the incredible story of how one crazy little idea became the .11 megapixel revolution. Okay, so first you have to picture this. We're back in the late 1990s. This is the era of beeping pagers and those clunky brick phones. And in that world, communication and photography were two completely separate universes. I mean, if you wanted to talk to someone, you picked up your phone. But if you wanted to capture a memory, you needed a totally different device, a big, bulky film camera. These two worlds were like parallel lines that were never, ever supposed to cross. But inside a pretty cramped lab at Sharp in Japan, one engineer was about to do the impossible and connect those parallel lines. We'll call him Hiroshi. Now, Hiroshi wasn't setting out to change the world or anything. He just made a simple but really profound observation about what teenagers in Tokyo were doing with their phones. So, Hiroshi noticed this trend that was popping up everywhere. Young people were decorating their phones with these tiny little photo stickers called purikura from popular photo booths. It was how they personalized their stuff. And as he's watching them do this light bulb just goes off in his head. A revolutionary question. Why go through all that trouble? Why can't the phone just take the picture itself and send it instantly? He ended up calling his vision sheinmail, which literally just means picture mail. The concept itself was so simple, right? Merge the camera and the phone into one thing so you can send images just as easily as you send text. It was a brilliant idea, a real glimpse into the future. But when he actually presented it to his colleagues, the reaction was, let's just say, less than enthusiastic.
Yeah, his colleagues practically laughed him out of the room. Their reaction was swift and absolute. Hiroshi, are you dreaming? It'll devour the battery, and how in the world will you even fit a lens in there? See, to them, this wasn't innovative. It was a technical fantasy, a complete and total waste of time. And this, right here, is the first major lesson of this story. Big, world-changing ideas almost always start out looking like crazy ones.
So, with pretty much everyone telling him it was impossible, Hiroshi's idea now had to face its greatest enemy. And it wasn't the skepticism of his bosses. It was the cold, hard laws of physics. And this is where the next chapter of our story begins. The battle for millimeters. Hiroshi and a small but really dedicated team were up against three colossal challenges that nearly killed the project multiple times. First, they had to partner up and somehow create a CMOS image sensor that was smaller than a fingernail. Second, they had to figure out power management so the phone wouldn't just die after taking two pictures. And third, they had a huge overheating problem that was literally melting their early prototypes. The pressure was just immense. There's this story of one smoke-filled meeting where a team lead, totally frustrated with a component that was still too bulky, just yelled, "Still too thick! Cut another 0.5 millimeter!" Can you imagine? They were fighting for fractions of a millimeter on parts that were already microscopic. It was an absolute testament to sheer perseverance. But the turning point, the real breakthrough, wasn't just some technical achievement. It was a deeply human one. See, Hiroshi never forgot why he started this whole project. He kept thinking about those kids with their photo stickers. He insisted that they add a tiny convex mirror right next to the camera lens. And why? So that users could frame their own self-portraits, what we now, of course, call a selfie. And this was the key. Success came when they stopped focusing only on the tech and started focusing on the user. With that final, elegant piece of the puzzle locked in, the impossible suddenly felt like it was within reach. After years of battling physics and skepticism, the moment of truth had finally arrived, packed into one small device that was about to completely change how we see the world. And that whole journey brought the world to this pivotal moment. We went from the old world of separate devices to the birth of this crazy idea in 1999 all the way to November 2000. That's when Sharp and the carrier J-Phone launched the JSH04. The revolution had officially begun. Just look at that number, 0.11. I mean, by today's standards, 0.11 megapixels is almost nothing. The images were grainy, the colors were kind of washed out, but those 0.11 megapixels might just be the most important in history. They weren't designed for perfect photos, they were just enough to deliver pure, unadulterated magic. Think about it. For the very first time, someone could take a picture of their cat, press a button that said send, and seconds later, a friend across the city would see it.
A message like, "Look, I'm in Shibuya," was no longer just some dry text. No, it was living, visual proof. That wall between seeing and saying had completely crumbled.
So, okay, that's the story of how it was made. But what about its legacy? Well, it's not just some footnote in tech history. It is the entire visual world that we now carry around in our pockets every single day.
The JS04 wasn't just a phone. It was the seed from which our entire visual culture has bloomed. Without it, there's no Instagram. There is no TikTok. It laid the absolute foundation for modern social media by proving that sharing what we see isn't just a novelty. It's a fundamental human desire.
The leap from that moment to today is just staggering. We went from those first grainy 0.11 megapixel images to the 200+ megapixel sensors we have today that shoot crystal clear 8K video. And it all started with that one crazy idea that was just powerful enough to work.
You know, this story really shows us that world-changing innovation isn't just about a single spark of genius. It's about perseverance when everyone tells you you're dreaming. And it's about having that critical insight to focus on what people actually want. It really makes you wonder, what's the next impossible idea that's going to revolutionize how we connect? Will our phones one day project holograms? Will we take pictures just by blinking an eye? The next revolution might just be one simple question away.